What's up everybody, Rob here from Sage Tower Games, and welcome back to my 7-part episodic series about how to run an adventure path. These videos are designed to kind of go over various concepts, ideas, and things that will help you run an adventure path regardless of what system you may be playing it in. Obviously, for myself, a lot of it comes from Pathfinder or Starfinder, those kind of systems. But if you play D&D or if you play other systems, some of this can also still apply to that as well. So in our previous episode, episode 1, we discussed knowledge, or the 4 things you should know before you run an actual adventure path. The link will be someplace on the video. This episode is about session 0. Now, what is session 0? Many people used to say this, and session 0 is basically the get together of the group before the game actually begins. So usually you don't actually play your characters. It's kind of like a pre-game meeting, if you will. A lot of times this is a good place for everybody to kind of introduce their characters together, get their characters, like work on the characters together if they need to, that kind of stuff. But there are some important things as well to discuss about the session 0. First, and this one is more specifically for Paizo, but all of the Pathfinder adventure paths, I think for the most part, there may be some exceptions out there, have a player's guide. This player's guide is essentially a little pamphlet or PDF that has information that will allow them to kind of help the players choose their character and what fits the campaign that you guys are playing. It may talk about important NPCs in the starting town that they begin in. It talks usually about whatever town they're in. It kind of touches base on some of the themes that, the campaign goals. It may say, this campaign is a highly urban setting, so these kind of things will work because you guys are going to be spending most of your time in the city. These ones, which involve you being in the wilderness or caves, might not be as useful to the game because you're not really going into the caves that often. That kind of stuff. It tells you what a bard or what a wizard might be doing in this town that warrants kind of ideas for your character as to why they would be in this location. The other good thing, and again, I think I'm not 100% certain on D&D, but at least for Pathfinder and Starfinder, they do have backstories or backgrounds. So these are essentially, it's a background, but it's also, most importantly, can usually be used as a hook to bring your character into the game. And you don't have to use these. I do, however, highly recommend that most players, especially newer ones, probably use them. They usually have some sort of bonus to some stats or whatever, some abilities. But they usually connect you to some person in the town, some reason why you're here, some reason why you're on this adventure to begin with. And from there, you can start to kind of build on your character's backstory with this initial idea. Now, yes, you could pick a whole different backstory that isn't tied to the campaign, but you don't have that initial matching hook, which is fine. Some people can do that, no problem. But it brings me to my next point. Players' backstories. This is a good place to discuss players' backstories in session 0. But what it also is you may have, as a DM, you may get players who are interested in having a backstory that isn't just flavor, but maybe you end up running quests for the backstory. Maybe they have some part of their backstory they really want to explore. I've been asked a few times in the past about this, and I usually tell my players that I can see what I can do. I do try. I'm not perfect at this. I do not claim to be perfect at this. But the issue I have with doing too many of these side quests, especially if you have a group of 4, a group of 5, so you have 4 or 5 different backstory quests maybe, is, as we kind of talked about in our previous episode, the campaign has, it's going to be a bear. It's going to be a long campaign. And by adding in more of these side quests, you are extending the campaign time longer, which puts you more and more in that dangerous territory of the campaign falling apart because it's been going on for 2 years and someone gets bored. Now, if you can pull off the side quests perfectly and they're really good, then yeah, I mean, no, you do you. But if you're having these side quests and everybody has a side quest, and maybe 2 people in the group don't really care about this side quest, and they're like, well, do I have to show up this week? Can I go do my own thing? And then once that happens, it's a slippery slope and people start to kind of lose interest. Or maybe you do too many side quests, and next thing you know, you get players who, they come back to the table and they're like, so what are we supposed to be doing? What's the actual plot of this game? And you don't want to hear that. Like, that just, if your players have no idea what's going on and you're like halfway through a campaign and they don't at least have a general idea of like what the bad guy kind of situation is, that's tough. Because if they're not engaged, it also potentially makes them closer to the door. The other side of this, and now this is the part I kind of throw back onto the players, is the backstories sometimes don't make sense. I'm a pretty open DM. Like, I usually let people pick what they want as long as it's not game breaking, and I try to make as best exceptions and accommodations as I can. But let's face it, if your character has some weird, out of this world backstory that has literally nothing to do with this entire campaign from A to Z, I'm probably not gonna fit you in. Let's be honest. Like if you have this whole, if your character is this, comes from this ancestry of Minkayan lords, when you have this entire family of samurais and all, like you come from the Tianjie region and all this, and the campaign has nothing to do with that region whatsoever. You never go there. There's not even one other character in the entire campaign from that region. I'm probably not gonna do it. And I hate to say that, because I would want to, and I try. Like, that's why, back to episode 1 when I said knowing your story, like, I flipped through those books and I'm like, okay, I can maybe do something here. I can maybe do something there. But if your character is like, has nothing to do with the campaign, it's gonna be hard. And if I do something, it's gonna be forced. Like, you're gonna feel it. You're gonna feel it like, oh, you guys are just traveling through town, and next thing you know, 3 bugbears jump you and rip off your arm. Like, it feels forced. It feels, you can tell when the story kind of breaks. The best way I can describe this is kind of in like TV shows or like anime shows, when they have filler episodes. The best ones are ones where you don't automatically know it's a filler. Some episodes you can tell, like, the story makes no sense, or it's just a hard cut. And just like, they just had this epic, like, duel situation, and then next episode, they're looking for eggs or something random. that's, that it's that, something's up. But when it's like a seamless transition to where this could be part of the actual game, slightly modified, it feels better, it feels smoother. And that's kind of what I want with my players and their stories, is to kind of sprinkle it in a bit so that it feels like the characters are part of the world, and not where I had to like rip open gaps and like jam something in some story into it. The last thing about in Session Zero I like to do is the campaign expectations. What I mean by this is let your party know kind of like what the themes are a bit in the campaign. I don't mean like kind of the themes we talked about a bit in the last episode about like what you need to know in terms of like dangerous themes, but knowing general concepts. So hey, you guys are all part of a traveling circus, so be prepared. You guys may be doing shows and stuff, so that may be something useful to do. Or you guys are all coming to this town because this town runs a monthly event to hire heroes and adventurers, so that kind of stuff. And no, this campaign takes entirely in place in this one mega city, so be prepared to kind of know about the city, get invested in the city, that kind of stuff, and just to know like what is going to happen a bit in the campaign. Also know general rules that you may have, especially if you have any homebrew rules, any custom rules, any expectations for the game itself. Start time, end time. Are you guys having breaks? If you guys are playing in person, do you have food, snacks? What do you guys do about your phones? That kind of stuff. This is a good time to kind of get everything pretty much set up so that when you guys do play, these questions are answered and you don't have to like break away from the game all the time. So some people do skip Session Zero. I would highly recommend not skipping it. It's a very good like group building session to have everybody A, get to know each other, B, get to know everyone's characters a little bit, and C, work together to make sure that the game night runs smoothly. So hopefully this video kind of helped you guys a bit on your Session Zeros. And thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for episode 3 where we talk about improv.